Alright, take two. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of my Doki Doki SNAFU. I must say, after a little bit of recording mishap, I found out that my latest file was here. Now the reason this exists is because when I was recording the Sonic video I uploaded last, by the way, play that fan game, Sonic and the Fallen Star is really good. But what I found out was I thought that was an older video I recorded, aka I thought that was whatever episode was last, I believe it was 7. But, yeah, that was the one I deleted. So, this is not a blind reaction to this side of the chapter. The rest of the mod is still blind, but just this episode is going to be stuff you've already seen, so. Now that I know Yuri eats in the classroom, it might not be a bad idea to occasionally stop it and join her. And I'll try to make the same decisions, by the way, as to not change things up. And again, keeping an eye on Kiba during a free period would probably be considered a public service. Who should I eat with? Yeah, I'd only give you the option for Kiba. Looks like you got here early. Huh? Turning around, Kiba sees me approaching from the east wing. Good, she made it. Need something? Sorta. I wanted to ask you more about the girls in your club. Why do I get the feeling that I'm gonna regret eating with you today? Come on, at least give me a chance first. I promise not to say anything you consider stupid. Will that severely limit your vocabulary? Will you even be able to form sentences? You're hilarious. If you're gonna subject me to your comedy routine, could you at least answer a few of my questions? Oh, I'm not sure how much I'll actually be able to tell you. Fine. As long as you keep true to what you said. Sweet. The rest of our lunch period is spent with Kiba interviewing me about the other girls. His questions are fairly generic when it comes to me wondering why he's going through the trouble of asking. I get the feeling Kiba may try spending more time with me in the near future. Oh yeah. Right. Because of that, we are now, if I go to appeal, we're now friends with Kiba and Sayori. And, Natsuki's pretty close. And I did find out how to do the route scene available, by the way. Even with the orientation period going, I could still attend normal track practice today. Monika already knows that it meets on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, so she'll understand if I miss the club on those days. Where should I go once class ends? Literature club is what I did. I suppose I should, and then I returned Yuri's book. Right, yes. I should let Yuri know I finished the book she lent me. Taking it out of my bag, I head over to where she's seated. Upon making her desk, however, my arrival appears to have gone completely unnoticed. Assuming she's simply trying to finish a page, I went silently in a nearby chair. 5 minutes passed with no changes. My original theory of she's just finishing a page is proven incorrect soon evolved into this hussy's ignoring me on purpose to display dominance. But judging by the way her eyes are moving slowly back and forth through several pages, this assumption is proved inaccurate as well. I didn't expect the girl who's gung-ho about being helpful to flat-out ignore me. It's like she almost makes me want to mess with her. Don't. An enticing thought, one that likely would have been to fruition had my current moral standing in the club not already been questionable. Also, if you're gonna mess with someone, don't mess with Yuri. I'll be real with you. Mess with like Natsuki or Sayori or something. Ruby? Yo, Yuri. Sorry for the interruption. Just came by to say I finished the killing game. That's wonderful news. Her joy is quickly offset by confusion upon realizing that my arrival is old news. Were you waiting for me? Only for a moment. I do apologize. I must not have noticed you approached. Hope you didn't sit there too long on my behalf. No worries. My thoughts kept me company. I see. Anyway, do you want to go ahead and set up a time for our discussion? A time? I gotta stop talking as fast. I'm trying to make this episode fairly short because it's stuff I've already done, but I gotta take this at a pace. I apologize. Yeah, the club might not be long enough for both of us to express our thoughts, so I figured we should try meeting up one day after school. You raise a good point. Being cut off or feeling rushed would certainly dampen the experience. That's a surprise. I half expected her to turn into a mumbling mess about just the two of us, or is this date? Maybe she doesn't understand the nuance of a guy and girl hanging out alone together. Did you have any ideas regarding where we should have it? The number of locations I visit besides my house is pretty small, which allows me to run through all the options rather quickly. There's a small cafe that stays fairly quiet a few blocks from my house. The place has never been packed before, so it might be a good choice. Unless you have any reason to object. That will be fine. You shouldn't have any issues if it's as you say. Alright, that's the plan. Having covered the time and place, Yuri asked another essential question. Do you have a way to contact me regarding your availability? Oh, right. I can pull your email from the group chat if it's not a problem. Excuse me. Yes, that's quite alright. She begins nodding to herself now that all the bases have been covered, meaning she probably failed to realize that I'd have another question of my own. Since I'll be contacting you, mind telling me when you're normally free? Oh, right. I'm usually not busy after school. The weekend could also work, but that largely depends on what my parents are doing. For consistency's sake, let's stick with that third club for now. Saying this, I pull up my phone before adding Yuri's email to my contact list. I'll send over the cafe's address after confirming you're available, then we can just meet there. I'm looking forward to it. Same here. Having worked out the details of our little meetup, the two of us began talking about the book she's currently reading. My usual duties at home have already been handled, leaving me with a surplus of free time. How should I spend my afternoon? I met with Yuri. Deciding now would be a good time to have that discussion, I pull out my phone and start typing a message. Yuri's response comes quickly. We spend a few minutes ironing out the details. We agree to meet at a generally unoccupied cafe near my house in about 30 minutes. After sending her the address, I empty my bag of everything except the book and begin preparing to leave the house. Reading the menu becomes repetitive while I'm sat silent and alone in the booth nearest to the cafe's entrance. I pointed this out last time, but this cafe was used in World of Dreams, and someone added like a radiator, but I feel like that's an escape room. I think you could lift that up and just like leave. It feels like the thing at the top of airplanes, that top exit. Buses have it too. An emergency exit. Yeah, that's what it looks like. But this whole cafe was used. Ugh. Reading the menu becomes repetitive while I'm sat silent and alone at the booth nearest to the cafe's entrance. Luckily, the oncoming boredom is curbed by the sound of the door opening behind me. Yuri steps through soon after, followed by her looking around nervously until finding me barely 6 feet away. Seemingly relieved by my existence, she lets out a sigh before approaching. Hello again, Ruby. I hope you weren't left waiting for too long. Not at all. Here, have a seat. Yuri sits in the chair. Also, this song might have been used in World of Dreams, but I feel like it was SNAFU. Yuri sits in the chair across from me with an elegance ill-fitting of someone with her personality. Contrary to this, however, is the way she anxiously scans the room soon after. Pardon my assumption, but I take it you don't visit places like this very often? I'm afraid not, which isn't to say that I dislike this place. It's actually rather nice. My unfamiliarity is just making me a tad nervous. That much is obvious. Her stiffness is probably noticeable from space. Not wanting the atmosphere to settle and become awkward, I put my lackluster small talk skills to work. Are there any stores you do enjoy going to? Stores that you do enjoy going to? Well, there's a bookstore near my house that I often find myself visiting, if that's what you're referring to. Why ask me? Does she not understand how enjoyment works? Oh yeah, what's it like? The shop itself is small. Oh, wrong person. The shop itself is small, but there's always a nice selection of books available. They also have a reading area where you're allowed to sit and even order drinks. The oolong tea they offer is particularly good. I've tried replicating the recipe at home. Oh my god. Yeah, it's 3:47. I really shouldn't be recording, but I needed to get this out before I keep on procrastinating because I've already done it. I'm in the club, but haven't quite gotten to it yet. The mom and pop version of the manga cafe, maybe. Sounds like a nice place. Are there usually a lot of customers, or is it more like this? I gesture towards the nearly empty cafe. Given her personality, the answer should be pretty clear, but I ask anyways for posterity's sake. I pronounce posterity correct and mess up sake. I say steak. Goddamn. The store typically has less than 10 customers at any given time, but larger groups haven't shown up on occasion. Even then, the atmosphere is still quite peaceful. Matter of fact, seems you have more in common than just books. Leaning back, my attention is turned towards the only other patron currently present. Vickers and I come to this place because it's never crowded. This might be a bit shocking to hear, or maybe not. I'm not exactly fond of large groups. Or maybe it'd be more accurate to say groups in general. The lack of puzzlement on Yuri's face grows more prominent. I see, though I am a little surprised. Mind if I ask why? Well, possibly because of how you behaved the day you joined our club. Even though Sayori put you in a strange position at first, you didn't seem nervous or embarrassed. But perhaps it's presumptuous to say these things. By all means, feel free to continue. I'm curious to see why you think that way. Reassured by my words, Sayori picks up from where she left off. It appears though you got along well with everyone. Sayori had mentioned that you preferred keeping to yourself, but I didn't notice that at all. Not that I was trying to analyze you or anything. Sayori's words had simply made me curious. She begins fumbling over her words, which gives me a good opportunity to interject. I can understand how you came to that conclusion based off what you saw, but my behavior that day can largely be chalked up to Sayori. For some reason, that girl manages to influence my actions any way she wants, which is quite unfortunate considering how it's usually detrimental to me. Our club being an exception. An exception, of course. I see. You two really are rather close. I'm not sure close is the right word, but that pretty much is the gist of it. Sayori is the only person I can confidently call a friend, though at this point she's practically like family. A slightly bitter taste appears in my mouth following that last line. Yeah, I'm still debating. What happened exactly? Like, I feel like they died in a car crash, but I'm not too sure. I never actually watched the anime this is based on. I don't think I'll make a video on it. Maybe I'll review it, but yeah. A slightly bitter taste appears in my mouth following this last line. What about you, Yuri? Have anyone like that? Not usually one to pry, I find myself asking this as a necessary evil to redirect the conversation. Someone I'm close to. She thinks it over for a moment before beginning to fidget. It may sound strange, but you could say Natsuki and I have grown somewhat close. Though, as you can imagine, discussing our interests with one another can often prove difficult. Not only is it imaginable, I'm practically having visions of it. Natsuki's probably screaming somewhere about how cupcakes are the dominant sweet, while Yuri's sat timidly answering a simple question. Perhaps our ability to sync up with Natsuki's aggression is evidence that opposites really do attract. You're right, it's definitely surprising to hear that you two get along. I fully understand the difference in taste. But that difference is what allowed me to get involved. Saying this, I reach into my bag and pull out a single book. Thanks again for letting me borrow it. I'm glad you were the one I asked for a recommendation. There really is no need to thank me. I'm simply relieved that you enjoyed it. Lyra looks away in an attempt to cover her blush. Before you start talking about the book, would you like to order something to drink? Huh? Oh, yes please. I flagged the waiter sitting behind the counter after getting her information. And what may I get for the two of you? I'll have a cup of oolong tea, please. I'll take a coffee, black. Those will be out in just a moment. Thanks. Jerry begins grinning at me as the waiter walks away. Something wrong? No, not really. You and Monika are the only people I know who drink their coffee black. The fact that you both are in the same club seemed like an interesting coincidence. I see. So Monika drinks black coffee too, huh? Hope that isn't a reflection of her personality. Says you. Yeah, I drink black coffee. Well, Monika drinks black coffee. God, she sounds evil. Once we received our drinks, Jerry and I begin our long-awaited discussion of the killing game. With an hour having passed, the two of us finally begin coming to a close. Jerry actually managed to surprise me with how well she handled the conversation, and again, it makes sense that books would be the easiest topic for her. Well, now that this one's been finished, are there any other recommendations I should know about? I'm glad you asked. After looking through several titles, I've found quite a few good contenders, though bringing them here today didn't occur to me, unfortunately. Don't worry, there's no need to rush. Slightly downcast, Yuri looks at me with a curious expression. You mentioned before that you took up reading because of your mother, correct? Were there any specific books that made you want to pursue reading as a hobby? Slight pain runs through my head as I think of one of Yuri's seemingly innocent questions. It makes me feel so bad. He's dealing with like some Fruits of the Literature Club shit, and look at that smile on her face. She's so interested. Genuine conversation. Considering her lack of sociability, says you, I screwed you over. Knowing more about people seems like something she'd obviously want, but still. I should answer vaguely. Honesty is the best policy. Wouldn't exactly say that it was books that got me into reading, as strange as that may sound. It's more like something happened to me, and I ended up using all my free time to read because of it. At some point, it just became a habit. Even after I stopped reading so extensively, I couldn't help myself from doing it on a semi-regular basis. I feel the pain in my head growing more intense as I speak. I know that might not explain much, but that's how it is. I see. You said an event occurred that made you begin doing it. Do you mind if I ask what it was? Sorry, Yuri, but yeah, I do. Saying this, I try to avert my eyes from her as I feel cold glare begin to occupy them. By the way, I didn't voice act that line while he was much more downcast. Sorry, it's not my place to pry into such things. I noticed her begin to panic with a look of genuine apology on her face. Knowing I'm the one who did this, I decided to take responsibility. Don't worry about it. It's only natural you'd be curious. The whole situation is kind of complicated, so it's hard for me to talk about it clearly. You didn't do anything wrong. Are you sure? It seems that I upset you. Realizing I probably won't get anywhere like this, I decided to derail the conversation entirely. You really have to be careful about worrying like that. Be a shame if a face as pretty as hers ended up with wrinkles. She remains quiet for a few seconds as she processes what she just heard. I love the, like that 3, 2, 1. Huh? That's not... I'm not... You don't... Her brain appears to have been overloaded to the point of not being able to conform coherent sentences. Thank you. I barely hear her say this as she begins aggressively playing with her hair. That out of the way, I lean back into the booth and look up at the ceiling. I hope that answer was enough to keep her from asking more questions like that. If not, I might end up having to put some distance between the two of us. I look down at the girl who's still malfunctioning in front of me and can't help but feel a little bad at the idea of putting her behind a wall. In an attempt to flip the focus of the conversation, I decided to return her question. How about you, Yuri? What got you into reading? Oh, I suppose it's only fair to answer my own question. Are you sure you want to know? The story isn't very interesting. Can't be any worse than sitting in total silence, right? Prying into people's lives isn't something I normally do, but you've piqued my interest. Assuming you're comfortable telling me, that is. Interest? Very well, I don't mind sharing this information. She takes a second. I slurred like every word in that sentence. She takes a second to settle down before resuming. It's quite simple, really. My father is an avid reader and keeps a large collection of books in his study at home. When I was a child, watching them read would make me wonder how she was able to stare at a book for hours at a time while seeming perfectly content. One day, he noticed me doing this and asked if I would like to join. Of course, I'm still quite young, so my reading ability was nowhere near his level. Oh god, I pressed a thing. Oh no, it's fine. But nonetheless, he sat me down with him and began reading with me. Truthfully, I don't even remember what the book was about, but I remember feeling really happy as he did this, and soon found myself wanting to read together more and more. There is a child's wonder in her eyes as she speaks. Eventually, I began doing it on my own as well. It's become a habit of mine ever since. Seeing a grin on my face, Sayori seems to lock up a bit. Sorry, didn't mean to ramble like that. Oh, what happened to the FPS? She begins playing with her hair in what seems to be a way to comfort herself. Oh god, wait, everything's running at a bad speed. Hold on. Because I opened up my settings. Oopsies, sorry about that. Sorry, didn't mean to ramble like that. She begins playing with her hair in what seems like a way to comfort herself. Try not to take this the wrong way, Yuri, but you really are cute. Uh-huh. This girl really has no idea how to take a compliment, does she? You're making it seem weird, but it's adorable reaction, so I'll take it. Cute? Why would you... You know, the way you tell the story like that all happily with a big smile on your face. Then you get embarrassed and apologize to me without even saying anything. Cute is the only word I can use to describe that behavior. I see. Hiding her face as she picks up the speed in which she plays with her hair, Yuri seems at a total loss for words, which concerns me for horrible reasons. She continues to remain timid like this, I may end up developing a complex. Again, Yuri's already my type physically. Excuse me. Yuri's like, the bigger the better. I'll stop. Then again, Yuri's already my type physically speaking, so probably wouldn't make a huge difference. Thank you. Oh, nothing. Sorry if I made you uncomfortable. No worries, but shouldn't that be my line? Wasn't my intention to put you in any kind of state. Complimenting and praising people honestly and often as possible was instilled in me a long time ago, causing it to occasionally slip out when I'm not thinking. Sorry for my carelessness. Not at all, there's no reason for you to apologize. I really feel like... God, I did this last time too, if I remember right. I voice acted that line with like a sarcastic intent. Whereas like sometimes I let my positivity slip out, but I think that was a genuine like apology. Though I didn't realize it may sound disingenuous coming from me. She casts her gaze towards the table for a moment, not cable. You shouldn't feel regret while trying to make a person feel better. Hearing you, well, got me cute, made me happy. Her words are so soft they're nearly inaudible, but I'm glad. You got a lot to be complimented for, so try not looking down on yourself too much. Probably not the best person to be giving that advice, really any advice. Something the matter, Ruby? Nope, just thinking out loud. Going back to what we were saying earlier, we continue talking for a while longer until we both decide that it's about time to leave. After saying our goodbyes, I head back to my house. Sociability increased by 5. Yes, sir. Now we're at 11. April 20th. Let's go. Oh boy. Get ready for this scene. Making my way back inside from the courtyard, a familiar voice calls out to me. Ruby? Monika steps out of the classroom behind me. Yo. What are you doing out here? Shouldn't you be in class right now? Yes, ma'am. She stares at me with an expression that says, so why aren't you? Sorry, were you perhaps looking for an explanation as well? That would certainly be helpful, yes. This is the first time I've seen you on this side of the building, and it's the middle of the period, no less. Funny story, actually. You see, I quickly turned the corner in an attempt to leave Monika behind. Hey! She follows me for about 30 seconds before we once again meet on the staircase. Sorry about the little runaround, but being seen standing in the hallway would have caused more trouble than it's worth. Should I take that as an admission of you currently skipping class? Me? Oh no, perish the thought. Are you aware your words don't match their tone? Perfectly. Though it's true I'm not skipping class. Partially, anyways. Then why are we currently hiding in a stairwell? My teacher announced a free period about 30 minutes ago. Not having much else to do, I started texting a friend of mine. Apparently, he was in the middle of a free period too, so we agreed to meet up in the courtyard. Hence why you caught me coming inside. I see. Though I'm sure you are aware being granted a free period doesn't allow you to roam the building at will. Yes, ma'am. So we're currently chatting in the entry on the staircase closest to the library. An alibi? I nod my head. Monika's face becomes slightly more stern upon learning the details of my cover story. You mentioned a friend, right? Might I ask his name? Kiba. Kiba Nakamura. Nakamura? Monika's expression turns even more serious. Something wrong? Oh, he says that like, oh boy. You get sexually assaulted by him? Well, Nakamura and I are in the same class, you see. And oddly enough, he just so happens to have disappeared right before the period began after claiming to have a serious stomachache. Kiba, you idiot. Did it not cross your mind to tell me you were actually skipping? I see. The fact that both of you are in class 3A skipped my mind. Oh, it's no problem at all. I'm sure a brief chat with Mr. Nakamura will clear things right up. As class rep, the health of my peers is very important to me after all. Right. Looks as though Kiba's lifespan may have just shortened because of me. Thinking she's going to continue chewing out for my unique interpretation of school policy, I'm surprised to see Monika staring blankly at me instead. Friend, huh? That's quite unusual. Her expression grows colder upon muttering this. Learning you have one besides Sayori is definitely unexpected. Ouch! Tell me, does Nakamura know anything about that other side of yours? Oh boy, other side? Even without context, my mind begins to assign her words to the worst possible meaning. Oh, perhaps that's a topic you're uncomfortable with. Sorry, but working off overly vague statements isn't a speciality of mine. Is there something specific you're trying to ask, Monika? Well, it's very complicated to explain. You probably know this, but you didn't exactly have much of a presence when you were in homeroom together. In fact, most people didn't even realize you were there. Yeah, you were there half the time. Getting to know my classmates early on has always been a routine of mine, but I concluded that you were someone who preferred being alone. Up until when you missed school for an entire week following midterms, anyways. The day you returned, you had such a... what should I call it? A negative aura, maybe? It was honestly a little scary. What could have happened that would flip a person's whole image like that? That's all I could think afterwards. Wait, is that not capitalized? Nah, it's not. Wait, that's not how that works? Wait, isn't it capitalized? No, it's not. I'm an idiot. Going from easily ignorable to consistent presence is no small feat, after all. Even though you were only like that for a few days, it was constantly pondering the nature of the change. Fight and breakup are my two leading theories, but asking around is useless since most people didn't even know your name. Coming to you directly was off the table since it would have defeated the whole purpose of figuring things out on my own. Unfortunately, the term ended before any progress was actually made. The idea that the mystery would remain unsolved forever was slightly depressing. At least, it wasn't until Sayori mentioned you were forming the literature club. Having mostly forgotten the ordeal by then, imagine my surprise when she said the two of you were childhood friends. Are you going somewhere with this? Well, when I asked for more details, she became increasingly evasive, which was suspicious. By this point, the idea of learning more about your circumstances began to look more troublesome than it's worth. Right as the sting of defeat began settling in, Yuri happened to ask about your family during our first meet. Enough, Monika. My tone's harsher than I intended, but hiding my annoyance would be meaningless. Yeah, it's that very same expression. Having learned that Monika is cluing in on my circumstance, I'm well half tempted to turn and leave, not just her, but the club as well. This is a decision that I'd normally never hesitate to make, but I'm starting to think about Sayori. I'm not going to pretend like this isn't incredibly irritating, but even why bother going so far? Was me having a few bad days in class really enough to warrant your attention? Not quite. My curiosity had existed before then as well. I'd occasionally find myself wondering how someone could be so consistent with being completely isolated. And don't take my intrigue personally. These actions didn't stem from contempt or anything along those lines. Finding the source of your behavior was all that interested me. Think of it like a challenge I sought to overcome. Oh, so my life was simply serving as a social experiment for you, huh? A let on another sigh will rub my temples. You're right about thinking there are things I purposely keep to myself, but doesn't that make me the same as everyone else? From my perspective, everyone in the club wears some kind of mask, with you being no exception. Oh? What is it I have to hide? Well, say it was your general disinterest. How you can't be bothered to invest yourself in the lives of others or form any sort of real connection. That also came as a surprise when you said you were curious about my circumstances, but hearing you think about it at the same lines as a math problem clarifies things. You have that class star personality. You can't bring yourself to care about the struggles and relationships about those around you. Of course, this is only the conjecture based on how you acted when we had homeroom together and our interactions in the club thus far. Judging by Monika's silence and serious look, I'm guessing this isn't too far off the mark. So, what now? What are you gonna do? Do? I wasn't planning on doing anything, huh? How you act towards or feel to other people has nothing to do with me. What reason would I have to try changing that? Plus, I need to believe accusations coming from a gal like me anyway. Really? Even after everything I said, don't you feel at least a little resentment? Should I? She stares at me dumbfounded. There's nothing to gain from spouting your ideas about me to others, right? Like you said, most people don't even know my name. Only serve as wasted effort on your part. While it may sound indifferent, the scenario is making me feel increasingly anxious. And you, couldn't you stand to gain from having dirt on me? Honestly, I've got less than zero interest in learning more about you or sharing said information with others. Not to mention, it's only a handful of people who would even bother giving my words a second thought. Several seconds of silence pass as she tries verifying whether this statement is sincere or not. Perhaps you'd prefer if rumors of this nature got out? Of course not. I'm just surprised at how unresponsive you've been. Even the people who hate me would at least rub it in my face a little, claiming I'm not so perfect after all. Isn't automatically assuming a person would care about your issues pretty arrogant? Well, whatever. I don't hate you. But second thought can be disregarded. And as for the first one, who's to say your distance from people is wrong or poses a problem? As long as no one else is troubled, who cares? Plus, I'm not under the impression that simply saying, "What can I do for you?" provides any actual help. Prying into someone's life under the guise of lending a hand is self-centered and naive. Humans aren't such basic creatures that talking to someone you barely know solves anything. And if you and the others want to stay silent on your issues, that's fine. Can't say it's my business to get involved. Another long silence from Monika. I'm at a loss, honestly. Even after seeing you like that, part of me still figured you'd be some dense guy who'd get overwhelmed by being in the club as bunch of girls? Being in the same club as a bunch of girls. As bunch of girls. A bunch. There's a typo there. I never imagined you'd be the person confronting me about this. I see. She steps closer. Do you truly have no intention whatsoever about learning more about me? Can't say I do. Of course, learning you speak about your own volition would be a different story, but before you decide to begin using me as a sounding board, keep in mind that my ability to provide tactical assistance is vastly limited. Hearing this, Monika's gaze drops towards the floor. Maybe they are quite strange. So I've been told. Not wanting to further expose myself to the now awkward atmosphere, I began heading up the stairs. The bell's gonna ring soon. I'm not sure what you were doing when we ran into each other. We should probably get back to it. Keep a left in the dust, bro. The ringing of the final bell fills me with an abnormal amount of anxiety. The situation with Monika couldn't have been more bizarre. That said, she didn't seem intent on telling others about her assumptions. Should I try confronting her about it again, or just pretend nothing happened? Bitchy as she was, seeing her drop the class star song and dance routine was actually pretty refreshing. I guess the question now is, what should I do? Go to the club. That's what I did last time. Stepping through the clubroom doors, my gaze immediately falls on the club president. She greets with a harmless smile after noticing my presence. Does that mean things are under wraps right now? You okay, Ruby? I nearly come out of my skin as Sarah catches me by surprise. Ooh, someone's jumpy today. You didn't do anything bad, did you? Why is that the first thing that comes to your mind? Well, you have a bit of a reputation. She whispers this as though saying it quietly is doing me a favor. Yeah, a reputation that got fueled by somebody not stepping in to refute the rumors of me being a pervert. She scuttles a few steps away upon hearing this. Most rumors are grounded in reality, right? Well, I'd say this one's practically buried. Huh? Were we having a joint meeting with the elementary school today? Why, He's not trying to be mean, Natsuki. Ruby's just gets a little defensive when he's grumpy. Since when did I become grumpy? Since the day you joined the club, apparently. Can't you both just get along? What are you talking about? I was under the impression that the two of us were besties for resties. What gave you that idea? Isn't back and forth banter like this a sign of deep-seated affection? Of course not! Oh? That's news to me. God, I love Ruby. Does that mean I should return the engagement ring? Geez, this guy really is impossible. You didn't actually buy a ring, did you? Sarah, your occasional ditziness is cute and all, but come on. Do I really need to answer that? Don't make it sound like it's my fault. No one can ever tell with you. Even with the ridiculous conversation current ongoing, my mind still wanders to Monika. Yes, the most I can do now is keep testing the water until something happens. Yeah, suppose I should use the meeting to... Yeah, talking to Monika is simply intelligence rank 2 and sociability rank 1. You know how difficult that is? Like, getting the Monika route is hard. But we'll see. Oh, man. Yeah, I talked to Sayori. Right. Something is noticeably different about Sayori's appearance as she arrives at my desk. Hey, Ruby. Hello? She begins to fidget awkwardly. Is something wrong? You're kind of staring at me. Did you wake up late this morning by any chance? Huh? Makes you say that? Well, a lot of things, really. Your blazer's wrinkled, your vest isn't straightened, and you have hairs sticking up all over the place. You really notice all that? I mean, yeah, it seems kind of obvious. Actually, do I normally pay attention to things like this? Not putting much thought into it, I begin to fix her hair with my hands. You really don't have to do that. It's pretty hard to fix without being brushed first. Does that mean you don't have to have a brush on hand? Probably wouldn't look this way if I did. Well, it's true that your messy hair can come off as an attractive feature. There's a significant difference between being cute and ditzy and being perpetually lazy. I just don't want to have anyone else knowing you've already crossed that line. What line? I'm not that lazy. I got it. Just quit squirming around already. Oh, sorry. Sayori remains still while continuing to try and make her more presentable. That's about all that can be done in the hair department. Now about your vest. Right, no problem. She begins trying to straighten it, but in doing so only makes it worse. Instead of pulling to the left like she should have, she pulls to the right, which causes it to be even more lopsided. Actually, looking at it, yeah, I guess her dress would be pulled to her left. Her left. Can a person really be this incompetent? Huh? Nothing. Here. Just stand still again. I reach down and grab the vest near Sayori's abdomen, which causes her to immediately begin shaking. Stop, Ruby. That tickles. Would you mind not making things seem weird? This wouldn't have been necessary if you'd been capable of straightening it yourself. Her uncontrollable giggling continues until I finally manage to get the vest looking decent. After wiping tears from the corners from her eyes, she regains her composure. Now all that's left is the blazer. Each arm is lined with several wrinkles, but I'm not really equipped to handle those at the moment. Wait, aren't you supposed to keep these things unbuttoned? Are you sure? I thought so. Pretty sure it's a dress code violation for girls to leave them unbuttoned without giving a reason. Oh, that's good to know. Well, what? Aren't you gonna button it? Oh, should I? Yes. Forgive me if I somehow misunderstood this, but what is it we were just discussing? Is that a trick question? Sarah stares at me with a confused expression as I rub my temples. Forget it, just come here for a minute. Oh, wait, what are you... CGI! Thumbnail! Let's go! Her wrinkles might not come out, but doing this should at least make it look somewhat better. Sarah begins laughing to herself not long after I start. This is kind of funny, don't you think? Is it? My sense of humor is subpar at best, so you'll have to explain. You know, you doing stuff like this for me makes it feel kind of strange, how I did when we were kids. I don't recall ever helping you get dressed when you were younger, and I'd greatly appreciate it if you didn't tell others that I did. My moral reputation in this club already seems to be on the questionable side. Don't worry, I'm sure nobody actually believes that stuff. Probably. Well, sorry, thanks to the vote of confidence. It feels loads better. When did you get so good at using words? She responds to my sarcasm with an awkward giggle. Man, this is starting to get hard to button. Are you sure it fits you? I did when I bought it. It did when I bought it. Well, if you'd taken the time to wear it properly, you probably would have noticed that it doesn't anymore. The arms and legs seem fine, but the width near the torso is too small. And what are you smiling about, punk? Picking a fight? Nope. Just means my boobs got bigger again. Huh? The development of Sarah's more feminine features isn't something I'd normally keep tabs on, but she appears to be right. God, I can't with this MC. I love the last one. It was like, stop, you're embarrassing me. And this guy's just like, congratulations. What are you now, Mitzi? Duh! Huh? Why get all bashful now? This is a genuine compliment towards your growth as a woman. Ruby, you can't say things like that. Jeez, it's not even close to how a normal guy would respond. Oh? In that case, enlighten me. How would a normal guy behave in this situation? You know, he'd be all like, don't say something like that, or stop, you're embarrassing me. He had my hands close proximity to Sayori's chest. In this position, I may indeed get embarrassed when something like breast size was brought up. Say, thanks for clearing up my misunderstanding. Allow me to try and behave normally this time. Sayori, don't say that out loud. You're embarrassing me. Was that better? Jeez, you really are hopeless. Can't argue the facts. Having finished all the buttons that still reach, I take a step back to admire my work. See, now you look like an actual student of the academy and not some freeloader who jacked the uniform off a park bench. That doesn't count as a compliment. Counts. Typo. She takes a second to get a feel of her newly buttoned blazer. What do you think? Does it actually look good like this? Looking at it now, I suppose... Now, last time I was really debating this. Saying, yeah, I think it does is cool and all, but... I really want to know what happens if I say, yeah, I think it does. Is that okay to do? Yeah, I want to do that. Hold on. Really? But it's so stuffy. It's not worth it. Okay, no. It's just... doesn't do it. Okay, load game. Yeah. Just, I don't believe Blaze's appearance is what I chose. Guess I shouldn't have expected to get a straight answer from you. That means you think that it'll look good either way, right? Roughly speaking, that is what I said. Well, in that case, with a big grin, Sarah immediately undoes all the buttons. Phew, much better. She puts her arms out and twirls around. Well, I hate to see my hard work go to waste, but seeing her happy like this is nice in its own way. Huh? Ruby? Are you blushing? Sure enough, when I reach my hand up to my face, a feeling of heat is currently present on my cheeks. Strange. Signs of a fever, perhaps? A fever? Right, I guess that makes more sense. Sayori begins acting unusually bashful as I continue pretending to examine myself. Odd. Why did looking at her make me blush like that? What do you mean, odd? Treating it like you're some science experiment. Yeah, you like her. I'm trying to make you not like her, which sucks, but... Sociability increased by 5. Has been increased from dense to basic. Wow, look at us. Yeah, and this is where we were last time. Right about here. Just in case I'll save there again. And, yeah. Cool video. I'm sorry if I was a bit uninteresting with my commentary. I did already do this and accidentally deleted the file. I promise not to do that again. If I do, the next recording is going to be even worse. But I won't. Really not much to say. It's fun. I love this mod so much. I'm starting to like Yuri a lot. This mod, I really like how they write Yuri and Natsuki. Not so much Monika though. I think Monika's an asshole. But we haven't talked to her yet. That's what I'm planning to do. But to do that, we gotta get some sociability up, so... that is something that we have got to do. So... yeah. That's about it for now. Anyways, thanks. Good night, and you'll hear from me tomorrow.